a survivor of the Holocaust, one of my very important missions in life is to keep alive the memory of the 6 million Jewish people who were killed in the various German concentration camps during World War II. Many of my family members were among the victims, including my beloved father. My mother survived. She passed away 12 years ago at age 93. I feel fortunate that I had my mother with me for so many years. I am a survivor of 3 death camps: Auschwitz, Bremen, and Bergen-Belsen. At age 18, I was thrown into an environment where love and compassion were dead, where hatred and cruelty ruled instead, where I encountered the danger and the probability of being killed one way or another on a daily basis, where death was marching wildly through our camps, striking the young and the old, beheading life on its cold scaffold, where I was an eyewitness to the horrible crimes committed daily on us prisoners. What kept me alive under these terrible circumstances was my faith in God, my love for life, and my family. I'm very grateful to the Almighty that my life was spared, and I returned from the camps so that I can talk about the unjust suffering and deaths of all of those who perished there. The Holocaust should never be forgotten, and all the victims of persecution who were silenced forever should be honored, respected, and remembered. I was born and raised in Romania, in the city of Cluj, the capital of Transylvania. We experienced Jewish discrimination before the German occupation. The Romanian and the Hungarian governments were strongly drawn to Nazism and fascism, especially in the mid and late 30s, adopting Hitler's anti-Jewish policies. As a result of that, anti-Jewish regulations were introduced, which became more severe in the course of time. But the German occupation brought catastrophic events to us Jewish people. 1 month after the occupation, it was April 1944, all of us of Jewish faith were forced to pin the 6-pointed yellow Star of David on our clothing, symbolizing the dirty Jew. We had to walk on the streets wearing that sign of discrimination so that everyone could see from afar the stamp of our religion. A month later, in May 1944, we were forcibly taken out from our homes. We had to leave everything behind. Our homes were looted, and we were exiled to the ghetto. Towards the end of May 1944, we were taken out from the ghetto and deported to the German concentration camps in locked and bolted railway cattle cars. We traveled in them for 3 days and 3 nights under terrible conditions. We had no water, no food, and no bathroom facilities at all were available for us. At the end of our miserable journey, we arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau, my first camp, the largest and most infamous concentration camp during World War II. Auschwitz-Birkenau was equipped with 4 killing facilities consisting of gas chambers, crematory ovens. It was hard to believe in the 20th century to have a killing facility like this, a place where every day mass murder is committed. Shortly after our arrival, we faced the selection team of the SS officers. My father had a premonition that something awful was about to happen to us. My father said to me, "My child, my dear daughter, remember to follow the paths of love, forgiveness, and tolerance, no matter what happens. Let the candle of hope burn in your heart at all times. Take care of your mother, look for her, find her, and cherish her. I hope that she will survive. Hang on to the three strong pillars of life: faith, hope, and love. Follow the broad, countless streets of knowledge, and beware of the dark, narrow alleys of ignorance. Don't forget me in case something tragic should happen to me, and I will never be able to come back to you." Soon after that, the selection started. The SS officers ordered us to form two columns: men on one side, women on the other side. At that point, I was separated from my father and uncle. I never saw them again. Both perished in the concentration camp of Dachau. I remember Dr. Joseph Mengele standing in the midst of them, holding in his hand a stick and directing with it some people to the left and others to the right. Later on, we found out that left meant death and right meant life. All the people who were not considered useful, like children up to age 14, old people, sick people, pregnant women, invalids, and the mentally disturbed, were gassed and cremated in the killing facilities shortly after their arrival. As we figured out later, those of us who were pointed to the right were good enough to be assigned to the gruesome task of dragging the corpses of the innocent victims, digging death pits where the bodies were thrown in like garbage, and then incinerated. Some among us were selected to be used in horrible criminal medical experiments conducted in the laboratories of Dr. Joseph Mengele. We were kept on a starvation diet and exposed to all kinds of illnesses like typhus, scarlet fever, scurvy, dysentery, tuberculosis, which broke out in the camps due to our unsanitary conditions. Getting sick in Auschwitz meant one's death sentence because you were not considered useful anymore. Every week, there were selections with the selection committee. When the selection committee would come in, you would have to strip, and they look at you, and they would decide whether you are going to live or you are going to die. I would say that God was me. It was a miracle that I survived 7 weeks of Auschwitz. By the end of winter 1945, we didn't look well anymore. So at that point, we were considered not useful anymore. We were sentenced to death. And we were taken to the extermination camp of Bergen-Belsen. We had to march 30 kilometers without food, without water. Whoever couldn't go on and stopped was mercilessly shot by our accompanying SS guards. Only half of us survived the 3-day-long death march and reached the concentration camp of Bergen-Belsen to meet the epitome of horrors. At this point, I would like to read to you a segment from my book, Survival, which describes my state of mind, my thoughts and feelings as I was lying helplessly by the trunk of that old birch tree, waiting for death. By the end of my third week in the camp, I could hardly walk anymore. I dragged myself to the trunk of an old birch tree as our camp was hidden in a birch forest, and I collapsed there next to the corpses. I was so weak that I could barely move or even speak because it was too exhausting. Total lethargy descended upon me. I fought for my life all that time, but at that point, I felt that it was time for me to accept death as my inevitable fate. I was hoping to have a peaceful death. As I was lying there, I was conscious of myself. Strangely, I didn't feel hunger or thirst anymore. I was beyond all that. But my mind was still active, and I could think. My thoughts turned to God. I expressed to him without words my silent wish to embrace life for the last time, to be buried next to a living thing, and have my spirit lifted to heaven. And I asked the Creator to grant me an easy, painless death. Then a very strange and miraculous thing happened. As I lay next to the birch tree, surrounded by corpses, I looked up at the tree, and I could see the fresh buds which appeared on the old branches. Those buds represented new life to me. I wished that I could embrace that tree, which was the only living entity around me, and I could still hang on to life. Suddenly, I was possessed by a life force, and I was able to crawl close to that tree and embrace the bottom of its wrinkled trunk. I thank God for that privilege. I felt that God had granted my first wish to embrace life for the last time. And I was hoping that the Almighty would fulfill my second wish for an easy death. Maybe I would be buried beside the trunk of that birch tree, and I would become a part of its roots and be transformed into another form of life. I always loved trees, and becoming part of one would not be so bad. Then maybe my spirit would survive and ascend to heaven. I tried to have a positive attitude about that so I could accept it peacefully. But God had other plans for me.